Mayor Snyder. I voted for the dude.
Roll.
Councillor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Snyder.
Here.
Youth Councillor Calderon.
Here.
Council President Goodhouse. Should we wait for Council President Goodhouse?
Yeah, I think you may be frozen.
Okay, Councillor Newton.
Here.
And Councillor Lube.
Here.
All right, let's wait a moment. Council President Goodhouse to rejoin the meeting.
I'm back in.
Okay. Deputy Recorder Patton, you want to call roll for him?
Council President Goodhouse.
Here.
All right. Let's start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Nollop, please put up the flag, and I'll ask everyone to mute themselves. Okay. Staff or council, any non-agenda items?
Mr. Mayor, staff do not have any non-agenda items this evening.
All right. Thank you. Public comment was due by 4:30 p.m. today, and call-in questions will be taken via telephone by calling 503-966-4101, and that is available now. Again, the call-in number is posted on the screen, 503-966-4101. Mr. Nollop, did you have something? Perhaps not. Okay. Follow-up to any previous public comment? Interim City Manager Nyland, do you have any follow-ups?
Mr. Mayor, we do not have any follow-ups this evening.
All right. I don't believe we received any written public comment. Deputy Recorder Patton, can you confirm that?
Correct. No public comment was received.
All right. Mr. Nollop, do we have anyone in the phone queue?
At this time, Mr. Mayor, we do not have anyone in the phone queue.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is used for routine items, including council meeting calendars, appointments to boards and committees, and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for the meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have certification of the November 3rd, 2020 election results, considering approval of a franchise agreement with Fatbeam LLC, and for the local contract review board, considering a contract award for Fruing Street stormline replacement to BlackRock Underground LLC, and then considering a contract award for fuel delivery and related services to Breathauer Oil Company. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Councillor Newton.
I second the motion. Councillor Lube.
It's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote.
Councillor Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councillor Newton.
Yes.
Councillor Lube.
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda is adopted unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to receive an update from Metro Councilor Dirksen. Good to see you, Metro Councilor Dirksen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. It's always good to meet with the Tigard City Council. I do have a PowerPoint that I would like to share, and I'm not as good with this software as I am with Zoom, but we'll see if I'm able to share my screen. Okay, that didn't work.
Mr. Nolan,
Councilor Dirksen, I can also share
Yeah.
it for you as well.
I was going to suggest that, if that would be helpful, Councillor Dirksen.
Well, I prefer to do it myself if I can make it work. How I clicked on the
So the share content button, and then usually you would choose screen 1, which is usually the leftmost option that pops up.
well, I'm seeing the mayor. I'm not seeing all the things. Ah, here we go. And that's not it.
That's it's coming through on our end.
You got it.
Mr. Mayor? Yes.
Close. I'm not showing slideshow from the beginning. Why isn't it doing it? There, how's that? You see that?
Yep.
Great. All right. Technology wins again. Well, 2020 has certainly been a year of unpredictability. We have faced so many obstacles, from a global pandemic to wildfires to political uncertainty and civil unrest. We've all been challenged in our role as public servants and as individuals. But for the most part, we've adapted and we've risen to the challenge to still do our jobs in the face of limits and restrictions. I'm so grateful to everyone who has stepped up during these trying times, including every jurisdiction in Washington County. I'm really proud of the city of Tigard for creating local funds for businesses and people who need housing assistance, and for setting up the Shop Tigard program. And across the region, local businesses ran PPE and food drives for first responders. Communities opened up sanctuary to those that were displaced by all the wildfires.
Is now joining.
And we stood in solidarity with our BIPOC communities. Through all this, Metro's mission stands strong, and we continue to plan for the future of our growing region, working with our city, county, and community partners to invest in ways to alleviate the strain on our housing, on transportation, on land use needs, and also seeking regional solutions to supportive housing services. 5 times over the last 2 decades, voters have continued to support investments that protect water, natural areas, wildlife habitat, and expanding our access to nature. Our staff at Metro continues to refine the latest, the $475 million Parks and Nature bond renewal was passed by voters in 2019, which is centered on racial equity, community engagement, and climate resilience. We just wrapped up recruiting for community members to sit on the new Bond Oversight Committee, and we look forward to formally appointing those members very soon. In the short term, the Metro Council is working to target bond investments that benefit communities that are most impacted by this pandemic, while expediting the capital grants program and the participatory grant-making pilot program. For the local share program, staff is currently working on a handbook for our 27 local park providers, including the city of Tigard, to help guide the work of identifying priority parks and nature projects in all your communities. We'll be reviewing that draft handbook with all our partners pretty soon, so that park providers can begin identifying and submitting priority projects for those local share dollars. This region has been facing an affordable housing crisis for years, but 2020 has just highlighted the importance of making investments in housing. I want to put out a heartfelt thank you to the voters of this region who passed the 2018 Affordable Housing Bond and in 2020, the Supportive Housing Services Measure. In total, there are 17 affordable housing projects currently underway in the region with funds committed from that 2018 Affordable Housing Bond. And in fact, our partners are moving so fast with these projects that the figures in your packet may already be outdated, but they are up to date on my slides today. As I prepare to retire from elected office, it's a great pleasure to be able to say that my district, District 3, currently leads the region with the most projects under the 2018 Affordable Housing Bond. 7 total projects in various stages of development. And a major thanks to all the community partners and government agencies that have made this possible. We should also celebrate the living wage jobs that come with the construction of these affordable buildings. Many of the projects in Washington County also exceed county goals for women and minority business contracting. Together, these projects will create 1,897 new affordable homes, which is about half the total unit production goal for the entire program. And we're actually ahead of the curve to achieve that goal. Some projects in Tigard include the Viewfinder in the Tigard Triangle, which will provide much needed larger units for families and will also set aside units for veterans. And of course, senior housing alongside the Tigard Senior Center, where older residents, particularly veterans and seniors with disabilities, will have close access to the Fana Creek Trail, the Tigard Public Library, the Transit Center, and the great amenities of downtown Tigard. Work is also underway to implement the Supportive Housing Services Measure that regional voters approved just in May of this year. And the Metro Council appointed the Oversight Committee members last week. Program implementation is on track and expected to begin in the summer of 2021, bringing critical resources to the region, and particularly Washington County, I'd like to say, to address the urgent needs of those experiencing homelessness. Washington County staff is working to engage the community to develop their local implementation plan. Supportive housing services include 3 key elements: long-term rent assistance to help people avoid homelessness, wraparound services, and actual housing units. We need about 5,000 units to support the people of the region. A few weeks ago, Metro led a workshop with agency and community partners to focus on strategies for generating those extra units. We look forward to continuing to work partners on this goal and to earning the support of even private landlords and affordable housing developers to help get us there. Metro continues to make progress on the regional waste plan as a blueprint for achieving the community vision that addresses challenges with our garbage and recycling system. This includes continuing to advocate at the state for more producer responsibility, including household hazardous waste, plastics packaging, and paper and mattresses. Fun fact, if we can divert mattresses from solid waste facilities to recycling centers, 85% of mattresses can be recycled. Metro is also continuing our engagement work on a possible new state-of-the-art center for collecting waste and recycling here on the west side in Cornelius. And a survey is currently available for residents on our website to weigh in on that idea. Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was extremely disappointed that the Get Moving 2020 measure did not pass this year. But I want to thank our region's voters for at least considering the measure. But Metro is still committed to the vision of improving the region's transportation system to benefit everyone, including communities of color, low-income residents, and businesses. And while the outcome of this election might give us the opportunity to tailor our approach to better meet community expectations, we continue to need in this region a complete transportation system, safe and reliable for everyone, regardless of their choice of mode. And though I'm leaving office, I'll still be around. and I look forward to seeing the community continue to come together on this issue. So we've accomplished a lot in 2020 despite the unusual challenges, thanks to the tremendous work of the Metro staff and all of our regional partners like the City of Tigard. I'm encouraged by the progress we've made in advancing our regional goals, and I look forward to the possibilities for years to come. It's been a pleasure working with all of you and serving District 3 for the last 8 years. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. City Council, any questions? All right, I can't see Councillor Anderson right now. Did you have any questions?
No questions. Good to see you, Craig. And boy, thanks for all your service. You deserve to be able to ride out into the sunset any way you like.
So, you know, as Councillor Anderson's alluding to, Metro Councilor Dirksen has served our community as both mayor, city councilor, and then as Metro councilor in elected office for the better part of 2 decades plus. And I know did a lot of service in the community before that. And we would like to, you know, do a little reflection on that tonight. And so, Councillor Dirksen, this may be a little bit of a surprise for you, but Mr. Nolup, do we have some callers in the queue that would like to say a few words about Councillor Dirksen's accomplishments at the city?
We do. Hold 1 second and I'll get it through here.
Hello?
Hello.
Is that Sydney Webb?
Hi, this is Sydney calling from Arizona. Hey, congratulations, Craig. Little did I know that in 2002, we developed a friendship that continues to this day. Your perspectives, goals have inspired us all, especially your passion for tigers. My wish for you is don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Ruth.
That's an in-joke between Sydney and I.
Is now exiting.
Well, thank you, Sydney. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I hate to see you go, but you're welcome to come down when you and Jackie can come down and find a place to retire.
Well, actually, Jackie and I are kind of planning to take you up on your invitation to come down and stay with you and Jim sometime later in the winter.
Okay, we'll see you then.
All right, thank you.
And for the public that may not have any context here, Sydney Webb served as a city councilor for many years in the city when Councillor Dirksen was mayor of Tigard. And Mr. Nolup, do we have a second caller? I believe we have another former city councilor calling in as well.
We do. Hold 1 second. Okay, we should be live.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Snyder, for giving us an opportunity to say a word briefly to Councillor Dirksen. This is Tom Woodruff. I've known Craig for a long time. We served 5 years together on council, the same time frame that Sydney was on council. And it's a major accomplishment to have served Tigard as an elected person for 20 consecutive years. 3 years council, 9 years as mayor. I think that's the longest term any mayor has had. And 8 years as a councilor at Metro. So 20 years is almost half of your adult life, Craig, and you're not a spring chicken. But you are younger than me. So I think it's very significant that you've done this, and throughout your tenure, you have served with integrity, honesty, and enthusiasm, and an example to other public servants. And I've had the opportunity to know Craig both socially and professionally. And unlike some people in the public eye, Craig is the same whether you see him privately or whether he's sitting in his elected position. So we don't want this to sound like a eulogy. It's really a congratulations from being able to move from a public service elected role to a much-deserved retirement for you and Jackie. Albert Einstein said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." And I think everybody would agree that your life has been and will continue to be worthwhile. And I wish you the best as you move forward to this next season of your life.
Well, thank you, Tom. That's so kind of you.
Mr. Nolup, do we have another caller?
Yes, we do. This is Representative Margaret Doherty speaking. How are you all doing tonight?
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. Hey, listen, I first of all, I'm just so glad that I was asked to talk a little bit about you, because our first involvement was when I was on Planning Commission, and I think you were mayor and appointed me to the Planning Commission. And from that point, I was always impressed with you as a mayor, because when I first moved to Tigard, we were kind of like not involved with any other people. We were kind of a little bit of an island, and you got us involved with the county, with the state, with other groups, and really made a mark in the city, and to make a mark in the city of Tigard, in Washington County, and throughout the state. And so I was always so impressed with that. When you finished as mayor, we're going to run for Metro. Some of my colleagues came in and said, "We've got to find a Democrat to run in that position against Dirksen." And I go, "Well," I said, "to be honest with you, that's the best person for the job, because one, everything that you deal with Metro is what Craig has in his heart, whether it's parks, whether it's recycling, whether it is transportation, whether it's these kind of things." And so when they said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's the person that you want to choose." So I think that the voters did a very good job by putting you in the Metro position, because it is so vitally important to the people in the entire Metro area. And you've always, worked with people. I've enjoyed working with you on the state level at the Road User Task Force, and someday we will have a different method for getting money for our highways and freeways. But I'm just so honored and to be able to say that I'm from Tigard and have been represented by Craig Dirksen. And I know that you and Jackie will have a wonderful semi-retirement, because I know that you will stay involved in the city of Tigard. But anyway, thank you for all of the years that you put in. I truly, truly appreciate it, and so does everybody else.
Well, thank you, Margaret. It's been an honor and a blessing to work with you as well.
Thank you.
And I think we have one final caller, Mr. Nolup. We have former city manager Craig Prosser.
Hi, it's good to see everybody. Craig, it is great to see you. I remember, I think we first ran across each other when you were appointed to the budget committee for the city of Tigard, and I was the finance director. And you were a great leader on that committee, and I was thrilled when you ran for mayor, because you were the man for the job, and you ended up with Sydney and Tom and others, selecting me as city manager. And working with all of you, quite honestly, was my dream job. And it was my dream job because of the quality of the people and the friendships that we developed and the great things that we did. And talking about how Tigard was rather insular before you became mayor, and how we worked so hard to put Tigard on the regional map. And it was always a pleasure working for you and with you. I'm pleased that you're going to have a successful retirement, and I look forward very much to the opportunity to work with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Craig. You know, when you were the city manager and I was the mayor, we used to say that we were the Craig show, all Craig all the time.
Yeah, and we were referred to in Washington County as the Craigs.
The Craigs. And, you know, we accomplished a lot within the city, the downtown improvement plan and improved funding and planning for our local roads and streets, expanding our park program, park system so much, a lot of things. You and I and the rest of the council, we accomplished so much during that time. I look back on that with great pleasure.
Yeah, and deservedly so. So congratulations, Craig. And I do look forward to being able to see you in person one of these days.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Craig, I will start. The city council is also going to say a few words if they want to, but I just want to, you know, thank you for the many years of support and thoughts. Being, you know, you're one of the people that I think, you know, Mayor Cook called in the past, that I've called in the past, particularly, you know, with complex issues that, you know, many people would either struggle to understand or would just have to spend a lot of time to understand. They're not necessarily, you know, impossible for anybody to understand. They're just, you know, few people will ever take the time to actually get in the weeds and figure it out. And you were always someone that would do that and also do it, you know, even when you disagreed, or maybe I can remember a conversation we had out in a parking lot before I was even a city councilor, maybe when I was on the budget committee or maybe when I was running for city council, where I was sort of flabbergasted that at the time, now I get it. I mean, it's, you know, super clear to me, but I didn't understand why the state was taxing vehicles that had higher mileage. You know, they were essentially charging larger fees for them. And I said, isn't that a disincentive? And you just very politely, you know, explained in a very classic Craig Dirksen way that, you know, the reason we have a gas tax is to fund, you know, the maintenance of our road system. And if you're paying less in gas tax because you're using less fuel, you're still doing the damage to the roads. And, you know, I think your ability to connect with people and explain things in a simple way has just, you know, benefited many. So I want to thank you for, you know, you were the mayor the entire time. I think I was on the budget committee and then the chair of the budget committee. And I just want to thank you for your mentorship, support, leadership in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilor Newton.
This is Councilor Newton, and I was thinking about my years with Craig Dirksen, and I want to say that Craig Dirksen served the citizens of Tigard for at least 40 years without a break. When I got to the city in 1980, he was on the park board, and I was introduced to him as half of Mr. and Mrs. Youth Soccer. Jackie and Craig Dirksen started youth soccer in Tigard. Then he moved to the budget committee, where my favorite question he asked when the staff was presenting the idea of purchasing a Vector for our sewer system, he asked if we could buy the purple one. He thought that was pretty cool. And the staff said, no, our equipment is white. So, and then he was a CIT, a community involvement team facilitator. And he walked into a meeting he was going to facilitate, attended by, and I counted, 180 people who were debating whether or not a road should go through. And he decided not to take a vote on the spot. He had everybody in the room that wanted to say what they thought, why they either supported or didn't support the road going through, and that's what he passed on to the city council. The next day I got 6 calls, 3 from the people who did, 3 people didn't support the road going through, 3 people did, and they said my mind wasn't changed, but I understand now why the people I disagreed with feel the way they do. So on the spot, he took this very difficult issue and made it work. I also remember when Mayor Jim Griffith died in office, Craig Dirksen was made mayor, and within 6 weeks, he had to do his first State of the City address. And this was back when we did them in the town hall, and he came in with his speech because we'd known each other a long time and said, will this work? And I think I recommended one change, and he made that speech, and it was very heartfelt. And then when he was mayor and we were doing the water system, he and the other councilors involved took some very courageous steps to be forward thinking and plan and connect for that Lake Oswego Water Partnership. And that was difficult because there was some opposition, but in the end they felt very good. So I just was remembering in all my years with the city, Craig Dirksen is the only person I worked with the entire time I was with the city to this day. So I want to say thank you so much for being gracious when it killed you sometimes, I could tell, and for being courageous when you needed to be. So thank you very much, and I will come by and have iced tea with you and Jackie in the backyard.
That'll be great.
Best to Jackie, too.
Any other members of council wish to say anything?
Yeah, I just, I haven't had the pleasure to work with Councilor Dirksen very much, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your service to the city of Tigard. We're very lucky to have had you, and I hope you enjoy your retirement, but we see you participating in city activities in the future still.
Thanks, Heidi.
May not even be by choice, maybe by drafting.
Yeah, I've been threatened by a couple people about that.
Council President Goodhouse, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for all the service. As Councilor Newton said, you've always been a great kind of sounding board for explaining things, really getting them through on an easy point, but approachable. Always been there out in the public, whether it's a hard situation, it's an easy one, and that's always respectable. That someone that can face that firing squad, but still in a calm way and answer the questions. Realize that people may have difference of opinions, but you're always there to at least explain it, talk to it, and never shied away from conflicts or discussions, which is always good. A lot of times people don't like that in their elected leaders, and you always did a great job explaining and walking through there and sticking to some of those hard decisions that maybe had to be done sometimes. And I just want to thank you also for all you did when you're at Metro for Tigard. We got a lot of grants funding for trails, parks. There's a lot that was done and accomplished in Tigard due to you being on that council seat, Metro Council seat, and a lot you did for Tigard, and a lot of things that people may not even realize that we have for our parks and trails. So thank you for all you've done, the voice you've been for the community, and we'll miss you, but you'll still be around.
I'll still be around. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilor Anderson?
Yeah, of course we'll miss Craig having to vote out there somewhere, but Craig's always been a wealth of knowledge. He's kind of been my mentor the whole time. He appointed me on Planning Commission the same year as Commissioner Doherty, so we got to work with him. And when I was president of the Planning Commission, we had, I remember a little dust up one time over the urban tree code, and the council and the Planning Commission weren't seeing eye to eye, but we worked it out. Craig was very gracious and supported the Planning Commission wholeheartedly. We eventually won a national award for that, by the way. And yeah, you're very responsible for pushing me to run for council and for here and Metro as well. But appreciate all he's done for me and for the city.
Thanks for the mention about the tree code. I really appreciate that and a lot of work that went into that. And I'm really proud of what we came up with. We came up with a whole new process, I think, that could act as a model for a lot of other communities that really is the best compromise. And that was one of my proud moments as a mayor, coming up with that innovative, what I consider a very innovative and fair tree code.
Well, Councillor Dirksen, thank you very much. Want to, recognize you, which is why we held this little session tonight, and encourage everyone to visit the park that's got your name on it now. It's a pretty spectacular location in the city. So I'll just mention that to anyone in the public that's watching that's not been to Dirksen Nature Park. Go check it out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This was unexpected and very appreciated by me. Thank you very much for taking the time and effort to do that little walk down memory lane. I appreciate it.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Mayor.
Good night.
All right, we will move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is to consider a resolution extending the city's emergency declaration related to COVID-19. City Attorney Rahala.
Good evening, Council. This is the 6th extension.
The public testimony portion of the meeting has now ended. You can check the city's website for other ways to listen or watch the rest of the meeting. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Sorry, that was a little less than graceful.
That's all right. Again, this is the 6th extension to the city's emergency
Is
declaration
now exiting.
related to COVID-19. The city's existing declaration is set to expire at noon tomorrow. This extension will extend the same declaration to March 31st of 2021. The declaration stays the same in terms of content and is necessary to respond to the emergency, including requests for outside assistance and flexibility on city policies. I can answer any questions.
All right, Council, any questions or a motion?
Council President Goodhouse, I move to approve resolution number 20-56 as presented.
Councillor Newton, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution, please.
Resolution number 20-56, a resolution of the City of Tigard extending the city's emergency related to COVID-19.
City Recorder, roll call vote.
Councillor Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councillor Newton.
Yes.
Councillor Lube.
Yes.
All right, resolution 20-56 is approved unanimously. We'll move on to item number 6 on the agenda, which is to receive an annual report from the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee. Senior Planner Roth.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is Dave Roth, Senior Transportation Planner with the City of Tigard. I am here tonight to introduce the annual report from the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee to Council. And I'm going to pull up a presentation here, so one moment, please. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So I have with me the TTAC chair, Ruth Harshfield, and the TTAC co-chair, Richard Keast. And I know we have at least a few TTAC members tonight, although I can't see who's joined us. So I think we can recognize those who are here once we get to the discussion section of this presentation. So I'm going to go through the agenda really quick and do a little bit of an intro, and then I will hand it over to Richard, who's going to cover the 2020 year in review, and Ruth will pick up and share looking forward to 2021 and beyond, and then we'll open it up for any committee comments to council, and then any Q&A and discussion that you might want to have. So TTAC is one of Tigard's 15 boards and commissions. We've got 13 members, 2 of which are alternates. Our meetings are usually on the first Wednesday of each month. And of course, this year we've transitioned from in-person meetings to virtual meetings. And I just want to say thanks to Tigard staff, especially on the IT side, and to the committee members for helping us with this transition. I think, early on it was a bit rough for everybody, but I think we've gotten into a groove, and we're able to be productive even in this remote setting. I'll just make a note here that the committee takes public comment and input at their meetings, and occasionally we do get visitors from the public sharing concerns or information for us. TTAC is responsible for advising staff and council on implementation of our Complete Streets policy, prioritization process for capital projects within the capital improvement plan, advising on larger planning projects such as the transportation system plan, which is seeing an update right now, giving us advice on project and program funding, safety considerations, and then project development as well. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Richard, I believe, who's going to lead us through the 2020 year in review.
Hello, everyone. This is Richard Keast. First, I'd like to thank Dave Roth and Tegan and Joe Patton, and also Councilman Goodhouse for all the great support they've given us through this year. It really has been a year of challenges, but also a year of kind of some surprising opportunities also. I'd also like to thank all of my fellow committee members who are here with us tonight and those who have worked hard all year long. Let's see, so let's start with the Complete Streets implementation. The COVID response has provided some opportunities to help support the strategic plan with the Streets for People project pilot on Grand Avenue, Johnson Street, Brooks Avenue, and 106th Drive. Another thing we've been working on is the 20 mile per hour neighborhood speed limit. We've also been able to provide some input to city staff for the citizen transportation request policies and procedures. And I believe you'll be getting an update on that later in the month. Also, we put together, again, as a response to the COVID issues, a self-guided tour in place of a in-person project tour. Also, it included project status, completion timelines, funding sources, and photos of capital improvement projects, kind of a snapshot of things that have been happening in the city. I thought it was really informative for me as a committee member to go through that process and share it with the fellow committee members, because it really does give us a better understanding of how projects are funded and completed through the city. We've also wrote letters of support for the Safe Routes to School program grant applications. And we received a grant for Metzger Elementary, which was a sizable grant of $1 million to improve pedestrian safety around the school. We also received a grant for downtown reimagination. And we also put together a letter in support of the Highway 99 funding request to the state legislature. And then we're also involved with the Southwest Corridor project. Some of our committee members also served on that committee, also citizen committee. And it was really good to have our committee members represent Tigard on that board also. not just for Tigard representation, but also keeping us informed back at the TTAC committee. And as part of that, we also wrote a letter of support for the 217 crossing and advancement of the Tigard objectives.
Thanks, Richard. And
yep.
I'll just say that, let me go back a slide here. Richard spoke about the self-guided project tour, and he was being very humble there. He spent a considerable amount of time putting this together, and really impressive piece of work that a committee member took on to share with the whole group. So we really appreciate that work. Thanks, Richard.
Yep.
So I'm going to move on to 2021 and beyond, and Ruth Harshfield, our TTAC chair, is going to walk us through these two slides. Unless she was unable to call in, and I think
nope,
I can.
I made it.
Okay, excellent.
I did
Welcome,
it, Dave. Thank you, and thank you, Council. TTAC is looking forward to 2021, as I think many of us are, to move forward from 2020. The activities that we're interested in looking toward, of course, is to continue the Complete Streets policy implementation. We worked hard on developing that policy, and now we are going to be keeping an eye on how it is implemented. And of course, it supports all ages and abilities. We also work on the issues included in the city's strategic plan around equitable, healthy, walkable, and access for all issues around the city and with projects that are happening in the city. We have 3 members who are participating on the TSP Update Community Advisory Committee, and we are looking forward to continuing to work on that project throughout 2021. And then also we'll be talking about looking at what kind of alternatives are going to be available now that the Southwest Corridor and Metro T 2020 were voted down. So we'll be continuing to look at how to do those efforts. And then additionally, we're really interested in updating the TTAC member selection process to better reflect our diversity in the city, which aligns with the city's strategic plan. So we're going to be looking at how we can do that. We will continue to act as the sounding board, as we've talked about earlier, between staff or with the city staff before they go to city council presentation. Looking at updating the CIP project selection, how that occurs to incorporate complete streets and strategic plan goals. One of our members has suggested this, and the committee is interested in improving communication with other Tigard boards and commissions, looking at how we might be able to do more of that. We have presentations from other like the Parks Department and others, and so we'll continue to be doing that in the coming year. And then also continuing to help rise and prioritize transportation needs. There's such a change in our travel patterns and the uncertainty around what we're doing due to the COVID-19 and the impact that it's had on mass transit, people going to work. I mean, you know, all of the things that we've been impacted by under COVID-19. So just continuing to keep a pulse on that and use that and as we're working to support the city in moving forward.
Thank you,
It'll
Ruth.
be a busy year.
That's right. It will be a busy year, and we've got a lot to work on. So thank you, Ruth and Richard. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is our last slide, and I thought I'd turn it back over to City Council if you have any discussion or Q&A, and also as an opportunity for any other TTAC members who might want to make any comments. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
All right, let's hear from any TTAC members that have not gotten to speak first before the council jumps in. Are there any TTAC members on the line that would like to speak? Or maybe at least identify yourselves so we know you're here for tonight. Oh, I see Karine was raising her hand.
Yeah, so good evening. Thanks for having us here. I think the joint meetings are a kind of really important part of the way that our advisory boards is able to interact with and engage with city council. So it's always a pleasure to come to one of these joint meetings. And I just really, it's really helpful for us who serve on these advisory boards to get your guys' input as we do our work, but also, you know, have the chance to discuss things with you and provide our input to you folks directly. It's always a nice opportunity. So thanks for having us here tonight.
You bet. Thank you. Any other members want to either introduce themselves or speak?
So I'll jump in. My name is David Burke. I'm a newly appointed TTAC member. My term starts in January. And just really briefly about myself, my family and we've lived in Tigard for just a couple months from now. It will be 25 years, and I have two daughters who graduated from Tigard High School. So I've been part of the community for a while. I was on the Tigard Library Board for 9 years and chair of that for 4 years. And so this is, again, another way to give back to the community and you know, live next to Cook Park, and it's just a huge privilege to live so close to a fantastic location like that where it's, you know, great to go for daily runs and walks. So I'm highly motivated to think about Tigard's walkability. So again, very happy to be part of TTAC starting January.
Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Thanks.
I think I saw George Brandt's hand up.
I'll let George go first.
Thank you, Dave.
Sorry, Ben.
Nope, that's okay.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Nice to see you guys. I do miss coming to City Council and seeing you guys. I don't think I've been to an actual City Council meeting since John was mayor, so I haven't got to see most of you in person, but it's been a pleasure serving on TTAC and serving with you, and hoping to get, you guys will bless me with one more reappointment. I think Dave's going to get to that later, but thank you so much.
Thanks, George.
And hi, I'm Ben Gooley, and just very briefly, I started out with the Pedestrian and Bicycle Subcommittee, I think in 2010, and then ended up doing a 6-year term with TTAC, and it's been, and this is my introduction into city government, and I've been very pleased with all the support that we've gotten from the council members and different mayors. I think I've been through 3. This might be my 3rd one. You know, just honestly, just keep up the good work. I'm still working with Dave on the TSP over the next year, and hopefully be involved in some other committees in the future. I really enjoyed my time with the TTAC. So, thanks.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service. Any other members? All right, council, what do you got questions, comments? Let's start with Youth Councilor Calderon, since he's not gotten to say anything yet tonight.
Unfortunately, much else to say, but it was a great presentation. Hopefully one day I'll get to meet you all. You all seem lovely and
all right. Council President Goodhouse, did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
I was going to make a comment. I was just going to say that we have a great group of volunteers and citizens on this committee. Not only do they they meet and go over all the different topics and get really involved and do their homework. But they also go out and look at a lot of these different projects or so forth. So people may not realize that they don't sit there and just look at the slideshow. They were actually assigned for different capital improvement projects to actually go out there, walk it, get a visual idea of what it is, and then grade the project and determine which projects they're going to recommend to council. So they go above and beyond really getting out there, talk about boots on the ground. Can't get more close than that, but that's what this just how dedicated this group is. Well, they'll go out there and actually, I think there was a homework assignment for them to each go to 10 different locations, and they went out there and looked at it and walked around. So it was quite intense. They do a great job, and there's a lot of area for this group to cover. They do a great job representing us and asking a lot of questions and being advocates for the city. So I want to thank everyone and keep up the great work.
Other members of council, questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Newton. I have a couple of questions. First of all, it's nice to see you, Dave Burke. I remember when you were appointed to the library and your girls were little, like preschoolers. So that's dating us both.
I don't even want to be reminded of how fast the years go by. That's scary.
Yeah.
But hi, Liz. Good to see you.
Anyway, first of all, I want to say thanks to the committee. I'm really impressed with the breadth of things that you work on, from capital improvement projects and how things are going to be implemented and built to the broader policy issues related to transportation and planning, to advocacy and input. So really impressive, and a pretty wide skill set that we're asking you to participate in. So much appreciated. Two things. Number one, I live on 106th Drive. So I'm living with one of the pilot programs for the Share the Streets program. And yesterday, I knew we were going to be talking. At daylight, there was somebody walking their dog. At noon, there was a father and son taking a break from online schooling. And last night, there was a couple with a flashlight, so walking along the street. So a lot more activity on my street now that it's part of that program. So my question is, what's next for that program? I know it was a pilot, so I just would be curious about that, or maybe you're going to discuss it. And then the other thing I was wondering about, I appreciate the comment that was made about modifying the member selection process to make sure we get more diversity. And to my fellow colleagues on council, maybe we should be looking at that for all of our boards and committees, and we might want to think about doing something more broadly. So second was a comment. First was a question about the neighborhood streets program, or I forgot what we're calling it, but anyway. Streets for People, that's what we call it. Anyway, what's next for that? Thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Noon. I'll go ahead and take a stab at responding to that question. So we did the pilot project, and we compiled a report with some feedback that we collected through our consultant that was doing some engagement for us. So we do have some survey results and information from the pilot that we can share back to council or through the TTAC committee itself. And I think we are at a point now that we're coming to the end of the year where we need to decide what we're going to do next with the program. And I think that one of the questions is how we resource that. There is interest in expanding it. The feedback we got was overwhelmingly positive from people. People liked it. But for us to go ahead and expand that to other locations will take some resources. So I think if there's interest in expanding it, I think we could put together a proposal. And we just one last note on that, we did do some transportation equity needs analysis that's being used in a few different areas right now in the city, and that's something that we could use to target future locations for the program.
So really quick, the location like on 106th Drive, if that's made a permanent location, is the signage going to change? I mean, or are you still in discussions about how that's going to move forward?
In terms of what we did for the Streets for People project, it's really a temporary sort of traffic calming type installation. It could certainly lead to more permanent types of solutions, and that's the kind of thing that we would explore with the transportation system plan that we're updating right now. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between the temporary stuff and more capital project type installations.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
More to come then, thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you all for the work that you do. It's important work for our city, and your service is appreciated.
Councillor Anderson, anything, or otherwise I'm going to be asking them what they need from us that they haven't either heard, gotten, or, you know, really what support they need for 2021. But Councillor Anderson, did you have anything?
Yeah. One quick thing. 2021, we'll have a couple bridges in the CIP, and we'll be disrupting traffic quite a bit. Does TTAC plan on doing any outreach for that, or how are we going to attack that?
And as the staff liaison, I'll jump in to answer that question, because we haven't discussed the outreach plans with TTAC yet, but certainly with Public Works, Engineering, community engagement folks, we can collaborate on a plan, because you're right, there will be quite a bit of disruption with multiple bridge projects in the near future, both North Dakota, Tigard Street, and then the Hall bridge replacement as part of the 217 Aux Lanes project. So having a coordinated approach with the community represented by TTAC will be really important.
Okay, that's all for me, Mayor. Thanks.
So Dave, do you or members of TTAC have you guys talked about what you, like, are there any like either burning issues or things that the group feels like they need direct support from the council on? I know Council President Goodhouse attends many of their meetings, but I just want to make sure that this is an important part of that connection, like Corrine was speaking about, where I feel like, you know, if there are those kinds of issues, we should hear them. We should either discuss them, work through them, or figure out how we can best support the team.
I think I would say that I feel well supported as the staff person, so I'm going to turn it over to Ruth or Richard or anyone else on the committee who might want to respond to that.
Well, this is Ruth Harshfield, and I think that working with Dave and the staff has been very helpful to the committee, and being able to invite other city staff to come in and present to us and give us information on parks and the work that Tegan's doing and other things has been very helpful. I don't know at this time that we have any specific needs that haven't been addressed, but I've been really impressed with the city's ability to continue working as hard as we've worked, trying to do everything virtually. It's been effective, and I think we've continued to make good progress. So other committee members, your thoughts?
I just wanted to extend a thanks to Dave and the other, and Councilor Goodhouse and the other folks from the city who've been helping, especially Joe Patton. I think without that gentleman, wouldn't be the well-oiled machine that it tends to be. So my thanks to Dave, obviously, and to Joe. Big thanks to Joe. And I don't know where he is, but if someone sees him, please tell him I say thank you for all your hard work, helping us keep TTAC running.
We'll get that note to him.
Yes, this is Richard. Yeah, this is Richard Keast. I would just like to say to Dave, I'm glad to hear you say that you feel well supported, because I think you're doing a great job with the committee and making sure we're on very current topics and dealing with what we need to deal with, not only currently, but also looking to the future too. And I can't say enough thank yous to you, Dave. Thanks.
All right,
Mayor, this is Jeanette Shaw, Councilor-elect. I just want to say I'm looking forward to working with TTAC and very excited. Thank you so much to be part of this in the future.
Thank you. Any other TTAC members that want to make requests or comments to the council, things that you need support on from us that you either feel like we're not doing or that we need to tackle together?
So this is Karina Rendes. The point that was made by Councilor Newton about more diversity on our committee, noting that obviously the city has recommitted to being the most walkable community in the Northwest, and there's great support for the Complete Streets program. But if there are particular city council goals regarding transportation, I would imagine Highway 99 is a priority. The landscape has shifted a lot because of the vote in November regarding the transportation, the regional transportation measure. So if there's other things that are of particular interest and or concern of the council that relate to transportation, I'd be interested in hearing what those might be.
So we're about to go through our next set of goal setting as the new city council is seated, and I think that's a great point, Karine. Mr. Roth and City Manager Nyland, perhaps you could make sure that, and this probably goes for all the boards and commissions, to the point that was just made, to make sure that as the council goals are refined and changed in the early, either the winter or early spring, that each board and commission gets sort of probably the complete set of council goals, but particularly the ones that are related to the board and commission in particular. And TTAC would certainly have some of those, maybe more than some others. We don't necessarily have always a lot of council goals that might relate to particular boards and commissions, but the TTAC and TTAC both would have those. So is that a reasonable staff expectation to make sure that happens?
Yes, I have made a note of that, and it's actually perfectly aligned to work that we are doing in compiling all those goals and metrics that we can easily share with boards and committees to track our progress. Okay. So duly noted.
Karine, will that help, I think, answer those questions too for you? All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, who is that? Council President Goodhouse?
Yes. Karine brought up a good point, and what I know this committee and then also TCAC and I think maybe other committees, just since the city had planned so much around the Southwest Corridor and that not passing, I know a lot of the committees and committee members are really wondering what's going to happen, what's going to go on in the future. So maybe when we have any kind of future presentation or discussion on that, maybe send out a link to those committee members so they can watch it or view it or have some kind of update. But that seems to be the, I know we're asking ourselves too what we're going to do. So we don't have it figured out, but I know that's the question that's on everyone's mind.
Yep. Okay. Thank you all for your attendance tonight. And we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is to consider COVID economic relief program for business and an agreement with Washington County for distribution of funds. Mr. Purdy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Lloyd Purdy. I'm the city's Economic Development Manager. Can everybody hear me all right? This is my sound check. Yes, okay, great. I'm here with a team from the Finance Department tonight to talk with you about basically a continuation of the city's business assistance program for firms impacted by COVID-19. Allow me to pull up a presentation. And can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see the presentation?
We can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. And I just moved it to a full slide view. Apologies why my computer, there we go. 2 weeks ago, you asked staff to join you tonight to share with you options for spending City of Tigard funds to support businesses impacted by COVID-19 and the governor's upcoming, which now has happened, recent closure orders. And tonight we're going to do that. But first I have some new information to share with you that weigh on that decision that we're going to ask you to consider. The state of Oregon is awarding $5.5 million to Washington County to be used for business assistance. I expect the city of Tigard will receive between $977,000, as much as $100,040, somewhere in that range. Let's say for this conversation, we will receive about $1 million of that funding from the Fed to the state to the county to the city to be used for business assistance grants. Following the successes we've had with Tigard Cares rounds 1 through 4, I believe we can get that funding out to businesses quickly through our CDFI partner MISO, following the program we've set up in rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a cost to that, working with MISO to collect applications, process the applications, cut the checks, score applications. MISO has a administration fee of 7.5%. So that could be a cost of up to $75,500 or so if we truly receive just over $1 million. At this point, we're unsure how much of the grant funding that we will receive from Washington County can be used for administrative costs. It won't be more than 5%, I know that. It might be 0. We might have to cover all that administrative cost. So in the least, we will need $25,000, maybe as much as $75,500 of city funds in order to distribute what will amount to almost $1 million in grants as part of Tigard Cares round 5. Let me advance my slide here. Sorry for the holdup. There we go. So that's the background I needed to give you. We have more money coming to us than we thought 2 weeks ago. So you have now 2 agenda item summaries in front of you, AIS 4488 and AIS 4491. They both relate to this topic. I'm going to ask you through this presentation to consider authorizing sufficient funds from the city's emergency reserve fund to cover the administrative cost for distribution of the next $1 million in grants we receive so we can get those grants to businesses. I'm asking you to consider authorizing staff to expend that funds within our existing appropriation to meet an end of calendar year deadline for this expenditure, and then we will reconcile it in the Q2 supplemental. I'm going to ask you for some policy direction on a question that I need your guidance on. I'm also asking you to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate an IGA with Washington County so that we can receive that $1 million, and authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate a contract with MISO so we can use them as our partner for distributing those funds. So I'll revisit this at the end, but these are the things I need you to deliberate on tonight so that we can move this program forward quickly. On this slide, our finance director, Toby LaFrance, will walk you through the funding scenarios that outline the different ways that we need or can use City of Tigard funds to leverage this federal funding that went to the state, that went to the county, that's coming to us, that will go to businesses. Director LaFrance, would you walk us through this matrix?
Thank you, Mr. Purdy. I'm Toby LaFrance, Finance and Information Services Director for the City of Tigard. And on the slide in front of you, what we've tried to do is present a potential scenario for how the city would need to fund the distribution of $1 million. So I want to cover 2 things. One, just kind of give you an idea of how this would work, and then the second item would be to talk about budget and timing. So in order for, one of the requirements for this business assistance is that we get this out to businesses by the end of the year. and it's looking like we're going to receive somewhere around $1 million from Washington County. At the time that we were putting together this slide presentation, we knew that the maximum amount that Washington County would cover in terms of administrative expenses was 5%. So we ran this scenario under that assumption. We also know that MISO charges 7.5% to do the administration of the distribution of grants. So we knew that City of Tiger is going to have to cover some portion of those administrative costs. Also, 2 weeks ago, Council asked us to come with some scenarios that would enhance whatever Washington County is providing with city funds to up to $300,000 that would provide even more in terms of grants. And so we've provided 3 options for you to consider this evening. So first off, on the the left-hand side, you can see the $1 million we're getting from Washington County. We'd be taking approximately 5% of that, $50,000 to help administer $950,000 worth of business grants. Then when we move over to the right side, we're looking at what would the City of Tigard need to do financially to complete this. And this is where we get our 3 options. The top line in option A is the recommended scenario. What this would mean is we would be taking the remaining $25,000 to get to our 7.5% administrative cost for MISO, and we'd be taking that out of the city's emergency reserve. 2 weeks ago, Council asked about the amount of refund we got on or reimbursement we got on our original $300,000 investment from the city, and we've got $120,000 that's available to go back to the emergency reserve. So we would be recommending that we take whatever the City of Tigard's portion of covering administrative costs. In this example, it's $25,000. If in the worst case scenario, Washington County gives us business grant assistance but doesn't give us any money to administer it, it could be north of $75,000. So we'd be taking that out of the $120,000 that we would be putting back into the emergency reserve. 2 other options would be to option B, maximize that $120,000 that we have available that was reimbursed, and in this example, it would allow us to have almost $90,000 worth of additional business assistance grants. Plus, Tigard would then have to cover the entire 7.5% that MISO would need to administer those grants. And we have the third option, which is to go up to the $300,000 like we did at the very beginning of the pandemic for business assistance from the City of Tigard. And there you could see that we'd have somewhere around $250,000 of that could get to business assistance grants, with about another $20,000 going to MISO. Be aware that the less Washington County allows their grants to be used to cover administration means more that the City of Tigard would have to cover. So in options A, B, and C, the amount that we'd need to have to cover administrative costs would go up, and in option B and C, the amount that we'd have available to add to business assistance programs from city dollars would go down. Lastly, from a timing standpoint, getting to the end of the calendar year and getting the business assistance out is important. From a budget process standpoint, in order to do a supplemental before the end of the year, we couldn't get that done until December 22nd. Council has canceled that meeting. And frankly, if we waited for the appropriation, we likely would not be able to get the grants out before the end of the calendar year. So from a budget standpoint, like the other grants, these are coming out of our community events and services grant area, which is part of our community services program in the general fund. That program also has library and police. It's the largest program in the general fund budget, and our budget is controlled at the fund program level. There is sufficient budget capacity to cover providing these grants and then waiting until the second quarter supplemental, which will be in January, so a month later, for that appropriation to essentially backfill the appropriation we'd be using for these grants. So part of the direction we're looking for tonight will be from council which option A, B, or C, or D, if you want to do something other than what's been presented, and sort of that you are authorizing staff to go ahead and make those grants, knowing that the appropriation will come a month later in January. And so now Mr. Purdy will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. LaFrance. Appreciate that. It was a great walkthrough of the different scenarios where some City of Tigard funding can be used to leverage, again, $1 million of federal money that's gone through the state to the county to us. Consistent with Tigard Cares Round 4, the round we just completed, where we directed federal funds to the state, to the county, to us, to local businesses through MISO. We now need to do the same process again of negotiating an IGA with Washington County, signing a contract with MISO, and yes, tapping into some amount of city funds. So I'm going to state again the actions that I need direction from, or that we need direction from council on, and I'll read through them all at one time, and then I'll, I guess, read them off one by one, and either I can come back to the visual view or audio-wise listen for the authorization we're looking for. We're looking for authorization for sufficient funds from the city's emergency reserve fund to cover the administrative cost for the distribution of the next $1 million or so in grants to businesses. And again, we at this time don't know if that's going to be as little as $25,000 or as much as $75,000. And that corresponds with our first staff recommendation of use city funds to cover the admin cost as needed, but we don't recommend adding additional funds on top of the money we are receiving from the county. The second thing we're looking for is an authorization from council for staff to expend this existing appropriation now to meet the end of the calendar year deadline, and then reconcile this expenditure in the Q2 supplemental. I'm going to still ask you in a moment for a policy direction on how we expend this grant funding, but I need to know that everything else is in line before we have that conversation. We're also going to ask you to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate an IGA with Washington County, and then authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate a contract with MISO, for which, as you know, you'll have to reconvene as the local contract review board. So back to the top of my list. Mayor, council, how do you feel about authorizing the use of city funds in a sufficient quantity to cover the administrative cost we think we need in order to distribute $1 million in the grant funding that we will be receiving?
So, Mr. Purdy, that is the staff recommendation, correct? Scenario A, maybe you can put that slide back up.
Will do, yes, sir. I'll put that slide back up. And yes, that is the staff recommendation. Though at this point, the 25,000 is an example. We don't know if we need 25,000 or 75,000 or somewhere in between. We don't have that information from Washington County yet.
Okay, City Attorney Rahala, you have your hand up. That always is a flag for me. We need to listen.
Yes. Thank you, Council. So just to clarify your decision-making items tonight, so the policy discussion about the use of funds, that can be a consensus decision based on a consensus of council. I don't need an actual vote on that. Numbers 7 and 8 on your agenda item, there is a recommended motion that covers everything that needs to be included. So I would direct you to that.
Okay, so to the extent that we can, let's keep this slide up for the policy discussion and get each member of council's perspective. I will just say at the outset that it seems like, as far as getting the money on the street and getting, as much as possible on the street, there's not a huge difference in the total amount of support that'll be available between the options. It just pretty dramatically changes the amount of money the city of Tigard. Am I correct in that assessment, Mr. Purdy?
Yes, sir. I agree with your assessment.
Okay. So, council, let's start with Councilor Anderson. Thoughts on this? Do you prefer option A, B, or C? And do you have other things you want to say?
No, I support option A. I can see how that's going to work well for us.
All right. Councilor Newton?
Yes, thanks for that thorough explanation, Mr. LaFrance and Mr. Purdy. I support option A.
Councilor Lube?
I also support option A.
Youth Councilor Calderon?
I too support option A.
Council President Goodhouse?
I support option A as well. That would cover the admin costs.
Okay. Doesn't sound like we have a lot of disagreement about that. I think it's the responsible thing to do. I'm really pleased that we can get another approximately $1 million on the street quickly. That's going to be, we're learning how to move quickly with some of these things. The idea 9 months ago that we could get $1 million on the street in 3 weeks, I think Lloyd would have been laughing at us. Now he's coming to us with a recommendation that we do just that. So I'm impressed, and I guess if we have consensus on the amount, Mr. Purdy, you also had a question about how it should be used. You want to say anything more out about that?
Yes, sir. We can do that now. The state of Oregon, this is federal money that's gone to the state. The state of Oregon has suggested or would like to encourage us to distribute these funds strictly to firms and business sectors that were shut down due to the governor's executive order. So strictly to the hospitality firms, the restaurants, those that were shut down by executive order 20-65, I think, the most recent order. That's not a requirement. That is an aspiration, I guess you could say, of the state. I would like to know if you would like us to follow that wish of the state, or if we should follow the track we've been on, which is extending this funding to a wider range of businesses that are impacted by COVID-19 and not just those that were shut down by the executive order.
Do you have a recommendation?
Yes, sir. My recommendation would be we proceed as we've begun and be inclusive as possible with this funding. The hospitality businesses, the restaurants, they are certainly eligible to participate. They would in fact receive a bonus on their scoring. We do a scoring process. So we're taking that into account, but I don't feel like with $1 million, we should turn away from the personal services, the professional services, all the small operators with small businesses. $1 million is sufficient funds to benefit a little bit.
Okay. Councilor Newton, I'm going to ask, I'm sorry, I'm just at a point where I can barely hear people speaking, and I think and I actually muted you a moment ago, but when you're not speaking, I would ask you to try to mute your mic. We get a lot of feedback that makes it very difficult to hear. Sorry about that. But I want to be able to hear everybody speaking. So, Mr. Purdy, it sounds like you're suggesting, I mean, that the suggestion from the state is being made for a reason, right? I mean, I'm hoping that that's based on some policy analysis, et cetera. And I guess I want to explore whether it is wise to, I mean, I think we've been on a fine course, but I also know that we don't know everything and we should learn when we can. So is there, like, do you have a good sense or understanding of why the state is recommending what it's recommending at this time?
I think timing is an issue. I will note that, again, they haven't made this a part of the requirement in the IGA that they signed with the county. So they didn't think it important enough to require it to happen, and they've required us to do other interesting things with previous rounds of funding.
Yes.
I think this is a matter of timing, in that the governor did make a closure order recently, and yes, there is now money available. I don't know that there's any other reason than that. Nobody at the state's told us that there's any more of a nexus.
So your recommendation for how to kind of handle that is to use that as a like if the businesses meet that criteria, to use that as a preference in the scoring process?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely what I recommend. We're doing a scoring process anyways. We assign points to a business based on a range of factors, and this would be another one where a restaurant, a gym, an indoor entertainment business, a hospitality style business that has been shut down, yes, they could receive a higher point score and ensure that they're more competitive for the, again, it's still a limited amount of funds. Keep in mind, we just got done distributing 1.5 million with a couple businesses that were not quite eligible. This time we'll have another million. So yes, a point system to account for that preferential treatment, prioritized treatment to the businesses that have been recently shut down by the governor's order.
Okay, so council, we've got a proposal on the table from staff. The proposal on the table, just to restate it and make it clear, the proposal on the table for distribution of the funds is to basically follow the general process and criteria that we've used before, modifying them slightly to make businesses that are currently affected by the governor's shutdown order to have slightly more preference in this, or somewhat more preference in the scoring process. Does everyone understand the proposal? Council President Goodhouse, you have a question about the proposal?
I wanted to ask a clarifying question. Lloyd Purdy was mentioning hospitality, but then also clarifying with priority scores. Are we only talking about hospitality industry, or are we also talking about things like gyms or recreation? Anyone that's shut down will take priority?
Yes, sir, Council President Goodhouse. We would assign extra points to any business in one of the sectors that were closed down by Executive Order 20.65. So that's on my list here in front of me: eating and drinking establishments, gym and fitness businesses, indoor entertainment businesses, and other hospitality businesses. So I use the hospitality term generally, but we would refer to Executive Order 2065 as for guidance on how to assign extra points.
All right. And one last clarifying question: would there be a point difference between something that was completely closed, like a gym, compared to someone that could do takeout, or would they be on the same level, like a restaurant that can do takeout, but they're basically,
like, how much of an impact the current order has?
Yeah, or like a gym that they can't do anything at all, but then a restaurant that still might be able to do some takeout, so they're maybe doing 20% sales as opposed to someone that has 0 sales. Will that be a determining factor?
As I've conceived this extra step, it was simply a 10-point additional score to the firms in these categories.
Okay.
So I wasn't considering until now treating restaurants unique from gyms, or even restaurants that are open versus restaurants that are slightly open. That is really hard for us to gauge at this level. So I'm proposing to treat them all the same.
Yeah, that's probably a level of complexity that would be difficult to. That's the kind of thing that makes distributing the money in 3 weeks hard, right?
Yes, sir. Right.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So we have a proposal on the table. Council, before we get into any formal motions, is there general support? Youth Councilor Calderon, I'm sorry, I didn't call on you. Do you have anything you want to add here?
No. Yeah. I'd like to hear what other councilors have to say,
Okay.
but that's about it.
All right. What I was going to do is try to get, if you all just want to give thumbs ups that you generally support the approach, then we'll do a bunch of voting. If we need to have a bunch of discussion, we can do that. Councilor Lube, I see you, perhaps you want to make a statement, or you are less sure?
Yeah, I'm a little less sure. I just, I understand, the current way that we're doing it, and I think we're doing a great job, but I think, the current shutdown impacts those who have to actually close their businesses more than some of the other people that we've been helping out. And I'd like to see a little bit more than just a preference, just because it feels like, they're being shut down and this money is being distributed to help them bridge that gap. And so I'd actually like to see them be given the first crack. And if there's funding after that, to go ahead and expand it, to the rest of them. But it sort of feels like this money was specifically given to assist those who are literally having to shut down right now. And it feels disingenuous maybe to try and say, we're going to help everybody, even those who didn't have to shut down.
Okay, so that's an alternative proposal. Comments from the council on that proposal? Since everybody else had their thumb up, I'm going to ask you to respond. Do you have refined thoughts now after hearing Councilor Lube? Councilor Newton? Any thoughts?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Yeah, I was going to suggest before Mr. Purdy put it forward that we give some sort of preference to businesses that that were closed or more impacted. And to Councilor Lube's point, it may be that what we want to do is give those businesses that have preference the review first, and then let other businesses that come in, if we can get to those businesses, that's fine. I wouldn't discourage them from applying, but I feel like giving the businesses that were shut down preference, let's move them to the front of the line in terms of review. And I don't want to complicate it though by having too many steps. So I would say any business that's affected by 2065, give them first crack, and don't discourage other businesses from applying, but let's try to assist those businesses first.
So I'm hearing you say stronger preference, Councilor Newton, for them. And then, Mr. Purdy, I see you sort of shaking your head. I think the thing to think about here, though, is, are we setting expectations that, we need to be really clear again? We've heard from our business community, especially in round one of this in April, was that we were not super clear. And so businesses put a bunch of time and effort in, who pretty much figured out at the tail end of it that they weren't going to meet the criteria. I would encourage that if we're going to say this is our strong preference, there may be money left over, but there may not be, because we are going to prioritize, closed businesses, but from the order, then let's say that and not have it be a big surprise at the end. Council President Goodhouse, thoughts?
I agree with that, with taking care of what both Councilor Newton and Councilor Lube said, was take care of those ones shut down first. And then agree with Mayor Snyder that we specify that the same these ones are being taken care of, so no one gets any misconceptions.
Councilor Anderson?
I think the weighted scoring process was probably going to get there anyway, but Mr. Purdy's shaking his head. I think he gets the point.
Yep.
Youth Councilor Calderon, now that you've heard everyone speak, you have anything more to say?
I mean, I just had the same ideas that Councilor Lube was talking about. I mean, the shutdown affects everyone, but the businesses that were shut down probably hurting a little bit more. But yeah, what everyone else said, I agree with. So, yeah.
All right, Mr. Purdy, do you feel like you have enough direction and you're ready for us to act on these two agenda items?
Absolutely. I have the direction from you. Let me restate the direction I'm receiving, as I understand it. You are recommending that we use City of Tigard funds to sufficiently cover any grant administration expense we need in order to distribute the funds we're going to receive. You're authorizing us to expend this funding in advance of the Q2 supplemental, where we can then reconcile. You've given me direction to both prioritize and in both a scoring way and in a timing way, make grants to firms that were closed by the governor's executive order. And the other two things we'll need you to do are authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate an IGA, and authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate a contract with MISO. I think you're still convening as the local contract review board later, so we can take care of that then, I assume. So yes, if I've restated everything back to you the way you think is appropriate, then I can proceed, and we can do this as quickly as our processes now allow. And yes, they are faster processes than we had.
I would just add, Mr. Purdy, that it's more important that we get the money on the street to needy businesses than it is to make sure that we only get, like, I don't want to waste not getting this money on the street. So if somehow, I can't imagine that we don't have enough needy closed businesses, but let's say we didn't, let's not fail to get the money where it's needed.
Right, absolutely. In fact, we have to get it out by the end of the year, or we send it back to the county sends it back to the state sends it back to the fed. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. And this could be an example where the perfect is the enemy of the good, and I don't want to let that happen. So, okay, is there a motion on the first item here?
Councilor Anderson, I move to approve assistance as presented and to approve an IGA with Washington County up to $1.5 million for the distribution of Federal CARES Act funding, subject to negotiation by the city manager and city attorney, and to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
I'll second that, Councilor Lube.
It's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Snyder?
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse?
Yes.
Councilor Newton?
Yes.
And Councilor Lube?
Yes.
All right. Motion's adopted unanimously. Staff, thank you for working overtime, putting something extremely helpful to our business community together, and therefore helpful to our whole community. Doing it in record time and clearly very thoughtful. So thank you very much for that.
I have one quick question for Lloyd.
Council President Goodhouse?
Lloyd, when do you, just so people watching this are wondering, when do you anticipate that application process being open, and how long it be in place, and then closing, and then funds do you have any kind of a vague timeline?
Yes, sir. Good question. A little more than vague, but we still need a IGA to show up from the county. We need to complete contracting with MISO. Now, we've done that before. We can move fairly quickly. Best case scenario is the application window starts next Monday. We run it for a week to collect the applications from those businesses that were closed, and so they will hear back first. And then the following week, we review the rest of the applications, with hopefully best case scenario checks being cut within 3 to 4 weeks from now, which is the end of the year. So there's unfortunately, because we have federal funds, there's still levels of documentation that businesses have to provide. They've got to get paperwork together. They've got to submit it. But with MISO, we can move that forward fairly quickly. So it still might be 3 to 4 weeks, because we do want to provide that window for businesses to make their applications.
Contract Review Board for the next agenda item. The next agenda item is a local contract review board consideration of award of contract for Small Business Tigard Cares Grant Program with MISO. Analyst Moody?
Yes, Mayor Schneider and councilors, I don't have anything to add as far as the presentation and would just be here to answer any questions if you had them.
I move to approve the contract with MISO up to $1.5 million for the distribution of federal CARES Act funding, subject to negotiations by the city manager and city attorney, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Council President Goodhouse, second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Councilor Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Loop,
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Okay, motion's adopted unanimously. Thank you very much, staff, again. Appreciate it. We have no non-agenda items. Interim City Manager Nyland, do you have an administrative report tonight?
I do have an administrative report. Thank you. So a lot going on in addition to everything that we discussed at tonight's meeting. Just wanted to provide a quick update on some of the other work that is ongoing. Public Safety Advisory Board, on Monday, we had an internal meeting with our facilitators to talk about next steps. And we have scheduled the first convening of the Public Safety Advisory Board. That will take place on December 14th from 5 to 6:30. So it's underway. And next week, we are going to start interviews for our much needed management analysts that will serve as point for the Public Safety Advisory Board. Regarding COVID-19, it was discussed earlier in this meeting, the statewide freeze will end this week, and we're going to move into more of a thaw. Washington County is considered an extreme risk level and will remain at that level most likely until the end of the year. So new regulations are being put in place. We are working on interpreting those regulations to get a better understanding of the impacts. Right now, our police department could be severely impacted, which is why we are working really closely to get a better understanding of what the expectations are. Before Thanksgiving, we heard a lot of concern from community about police department breaking up Thanksgiving gatherings. Knowing that safety and protocols needed to be followed, we wanted to let you know that we did not receive any calls for service about large gatherings taking place. So everyone had a festive Thanksgiving. Updates from the library. Want to let everyone know that no contact library takeout is still available Monday through Friday, noon to 5. No appointments are needed, but visitors are urged to call ahead. There's still time for teenagers, grades 6 through 12, to join the Teen Library Council, and members of this council help plan virtual events for all ages and set the direction for teen library services, all while earning volunteer credit. So it's a great opportunity. Another thing the library is doing starting today is they're providing a crafting series for adults. Free crafting kits are available through their no contact library takeout service on a first come, first served basis. And to learn more, please visit the library's website or give the city a call and we will provide that information. A few updates with Public Works. They are continuing to communicate widely about the upcoming utility rate increase. One of the things that they're doing is their managers in Public Works are going to be hosting office hours to respond to community questions about this increase so people can actually talk to a human being. So all the managers will be taking shifts to cover those calls, which is very appreciated. The new Parks and Rec Green Infrastructure Manager, Rick Gruen, started last week, and we are thrilled to have him join the team of Tigard. I know that was an important hire, and we're looking forward to all the good work that's going to be happening. Public Works is also working with the Tualatin River Keepers this week to collaborate on going after the State Marine Board grant for ADA an accessible launch at Cook Park, which is very exciting that we're really exploring grant possibilities to get work done. And I wanted to mention that the third of our 4 free leaf event disposal will take place this Saturday down at Cook Park. This is one of the busiest activities for Public Works. So I wanted to highlight that good work. And to end on a feel good, last week staff launched Tigard Thanks. And this is a project that highlights community members who have made a difference in a very challenging year. In just 1 week, we received over 73 responses. 60 people came through our website, and 13 contacted us through social media. And every person who submits a thank you receives a gift of gratitude from us. And that's a face covering that says, "We are Tigard." So we're thrilled with the participation and really thankful that people are being recognized and grateful for the connections with community that we're making. And I just wanted to recap much of what was discussed tonight. So we are going to encourage people to visit Dirksen Natural Park. We are going to pass along thanks to Joe Patton from the TTAC. We will keep boards and committee members informed and share council goals and progress reports as they are developed. I've already put a marker on my calendar that will happen likely in spring of 2021. And the city attorney and I will get to work on working with Washington County on an IGA and working with MISO to develop a contract. That's what I have this evening.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
And we are going to move to our last item on the agenda, which is an executive session. Tigard City Council will go into executive session to discuss real property negotiations under ORS 192.660 subsection 2E. All discussions are confidential and those present may disclose nothing from the session. Representatives of the news media are allowed to attend executive sessions as provided by ORS 192.660 subsection 4, but must not disclose any information discussed. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking any final action or making any final decision. Executive sessions are closed to the public. The City Council will adjourn immediately from the executive session at the conclusion of that. So good night, everyone, and Council will see you in a moment.
See you guys.